The War of 1812, often called America's Forgotten War, is a story shrouded in intrigue, ambition, and the relentless clash of empires. Imagine the early 19th century. The United States, a young nation barely 3 decades old, still recovering from its hard-won independence, facing the might of the British Empire, which had recently emerged victorious from the Napoleonic Wars. The oceans were a dangerous place. British ships enforced a tight blockade against French trade, but in doing so, they didn't hesitate to seize American vessels, insisting that neutral American sailors serve in the Royal Navy, a practice known as impressment. American captains protested, citizens fumed, and tensions simmered. But this was not just a war about sailors and trade. The frontier was alive with conflict. Native American resistance, often supported by the British, threatened American expansion into territories that today form the Midwest. Calls for war grew louder in Congress, fueled by a group known as the War Hawks, young politicians who saw opportunity in a conflict that could expand U.S. influence into Canada and assert national pride. The spark was small but potent. On June 18, 1812, President James Madison signed the Declaration of War against Great Britain, launching a struggle that would test the resolve of the fledgling nation. The war began with a series of uneasy campaigns along the northern border with Canada. American troops attempted invasions into Upper Canada, but met stiff resistance. The battles were brutal, often poorly coordinated, and highlighted the difficulties of waging war with limited resources and inexperienced soldiers. At sea, the small but determined U.S. Navy scored remarkable victories. The frigate USS Constitution, nicknamed Old Ironsides, defeated larger British warships, boosting morale and proving that America could stand against a seasoned Royal Navy. Yet, the war was far from won, and the stakes grew ever higher. In August 1814, British forces sailed into Chesapeake Bay with overwhelming power, their sights set on the American capital. Washington, D.C., was poorly defended. In a dramatic and devastating sequence, the British stormed the city, setting fire to the White House, the Capitol, and government buildings. Smoke and flames consumed symbols of American independence, leaving a nation in shock. But the Americans were not defeated. Just a few miles away in Baltimore, Fort McHenry stood as a bulwark against the invading forces. The British launched a massive bombardment, raining cannon fire on the fort through the night. Inside, the defenders held fast. As dawn broke, an American flag still flew over the fort, a symbol of resilience and courage. This iconic moment inspired Francis Scott Key to pen the Star-Spangled Banner, a testament to the enduring spirit of a nation under siege. Meanwhile, on the western frontier, General Andrew Jackson prepared for a confrontation that would define his military career and the war's legacy. At the Battle of New Orleans in January 1815, Jackson's diverse army of regulars, militia, free African Americans, native allies, and pirates faced seasoned British troops in a fight for control of the vital port city. With careful planning, entrenched defenses, and relentless determination, the Americans inflicted a crushing defeat on the British, an astonishing victory that arrived after the Treaty of Ghent had already been signed but not yet ratified, highlighting the slow pace of 19th century communication. The Treaty of Ghent, signed on December 24, 1814, effectively ended the war, restoring territorial boundaries but addressing few of the original grievances. Impressment was no longer an issue because the Napoleonic Wars had ended and both nations sought peace and stability. The conflict faded from memory, overshadowed by the monumental wars of Europe and the looming Industrial Revolution. Yet, the War of 1812 left profound impacts. It cemented American independence in the eyes of the world, fostered national pride, and paved the way for future westward expansion. It also exposed the vulnerabilities of both nations, demonstrating that naval power, strategy, and local knowledge could turn the tide of battle. From the burning of Washington to the triumphant defense of Fort McHenry, from naval duels on the high seas to the muddy fields of New Orleans, the war is a tapestry of heroism, miscalculation, and the enduring struggle for sovereignty. Through maps tracing troop movements, animated reenactments of naval battles, and evocative storytelling, viewers can witness a conflict that shaped a nation yet remains largely forgotten. The War of 1812 may not have drawn the same attention as the Revolutionary War or the Civil War, but embodies the resilience and determination of a young America, standing firm against the world's greatest empire. It reminds us that history is not only made in the victories and losses recorded in textbooks, but in the courage of those who face impossible odds, in the decisions that echoed far beyond the battlefield, and in the moments that inspired a fledgling nation to endure, adapt, and rise. By understanding this conflict, we gain insight into the formation of American identity, the complexity of international relations, and the human stories of bravery, sacrifice, and survival that too often remain hidden in the shadows of history. As we trace the journeys of soldiers, sailors, and civilians, map the campaigns, and analyze the strategies, the War of 1812 unfolds not as a distant, forgotten episode, but as a dramatic and defining chapter in the story of the United States, a story that continues to resonate with lessons about resilience, diplomacy, and the cost of war. The echoes of the cannon fire, the smoke over the Capitol, the triumphant waves of the American flag, and the decisive clash at New Orleans all combine to create a narrative that captivates, informs, and reminds us why, even forgotten, wars are never truly forgotten. They live on in the nations they shaped and in the stories we tell to remember them. History is full of battles, but the greatest one is keeping their stories alive. Subscribe, share, and like now, never miss the moments that change the world.